Imagine a Tuesday morning. It's 8:04 a.m. You go to buy coffee. Your card is declined. Insufficient funds. That's impossible. You were just paid. You check your banking app. It won't load. Service unavailable. You try the ATM. It's dark. The screen is blank. A line is forming. People are quiet, confused, and then, slowly, panicked. You're not just late for work. You are locked out. The news is frantic. They're calling it a system-wide failure, a cyber attack, a liquidity crisis. The president is about to speak. The stock market is frozen. This isn't a crash. A crash is a graph on a screen going down. A crash is something you watch. This is a switch. This is an event you participate in. This is the sound of a door locking behind you. For 72 hours, the world will hold its breath. And in that silence, in that moment of maximum fear, they will announce the solution. They will call it a rescue. But it is the single greatest theft in human history. They are not just resetting the market. They are resetting you. This is your one final chance to get rich. Your one final chance to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer ever recorded, or to be permanently locked into a system where you will own nothing. Welcome to the unfiltered truth. I'm glad you're here. Hit that subscribe button. You are not going to want to miss what's coming next. To understand the sheer scale of the lie, you have to understand the blueprint. Because this exact playbook has been run before. The official history of the Federal Reserve is a sanitized fairy tale. The story they teach in textbooks goes like this. In the early 1900s, the American banking system was chaotic. It was plagued by panics, the most famous being the Panic of 1907. It was a time of wildcat bankers and instability. The public, we are told, demanded a safer, more stable, and elastic financial system to protect them. And so, in 1913, Congress heroically passed the Federal Reserve Act, giving birth to a central bank that would manage the economy, smooth out the business cycle, and protect the common man. This story is a complete fabrication. The real story was plotted in absolute secrecy on a private island off the coast of Georgia. In November 1910, a handful of the world's most powerful men, representing names like Rockefeller, Morgan, and Warburg, disappeared for a week. The ruse was a duck hunt. They traveled under false names. They were forbidden from using their last names. They represented, at that moment, nearly a quarter of the entire world's wealth. This wasn't a gathering. It was a conspiracy. Nelson Aldrich, a Republican senator and father-in-law to John D. Rockefeller Jr., was the political face. Frank Vanderlip, president of National City Bank of New York, represented the Rockefeller interests. Henry Davison represented the J.P. Morgan interests. And then there was Paul Warburg. Warburg was the most important. A German-born scion of the Warburg banking dynasty, he had come to America with a singular mission: to convince the United States that it needed a European-style central bank. He was the architect. These men were not patriots. They were monopolists. They saw that the real power was not in competing with each other, but in colluding. They didn't just want a central bank. They needed one to backstop their own risky speculations. The 1907 panic? J.P. Morgan himself helped engineer the liquidity squeeze that caused it. He had started a rumor that a rival trust, the Knickerbocker, was insolvent. This triggered a bank run, which Morgan then heroically stepped in to stop. Using the crisis, he helped create as leverage to consolidate his power and crush his competitors. It was the perfect, cynical demonstration of problem, reaction, solution. The bankers on Jekyll Island saw this and decided to institutionalize the scam. They created the problem, an unstable, boom-bust system that they privately manipulated. They fanned the flames of the reaction, public panic, and financial ruin. And then they presented their prepackaged solution, the Aldrich Plan, which, after a clever name change to the Federal Reserve Act, was sold to the public as a progressive reform. They created the fire, then sold the world the only fire hose, a fire hose they owned. They promised stability. What did we get? 16 years later, the Great Depression. A crisis the Fed amplified by contracting the money supply at the worst possible time. We got a century of engineered booms and busts. We got over 98% of the dollar's purchasing power erased since 1913. We got parasitic finance, where the banking system no longer serves industry, but feeds on it. This parasitic system has now reached its inevitable mathematical end. It has become a debt-death spiral. This is the stage where the government is no longer just borrowing to pay for new programs. It is now borrowing new trillions just to pay the interest on the old trillions. As of today, the U.S. national debt is over $34.5 trillion. But that number is a smokescreen. The real, terrifying number is the unfunded liabilities, the money promised for Social Security, Medicare, and government pensions. That number is estimated to be over $210 trillion. It is a black hole. It is a mathematical checkmate. There is no scenario where this debt gets paid back. It can only be defaulted on, either through a sudden, hyperinflationary collapse or through a reset where they replace it with an entirely new system. And that is exactly what they've planned. Sound familiar? Now look at today. What is the problem we're being sold? The financial system is broken. Cash is dirty, inefficient, and for criminals. Bank transfers are too slow. The unbanked need to be included. We're told the 2008 crisis, another event caused by the Fed's easy money, proved the banks are reckless. We're told the 2020 pandemic proved we need a more direct way for the government to get stimulus into our pockets. They are, once again, creating the pretext for their solution. The crisis of 1907 was the excuse to install the Federal Reserve. The crises of 2008 and 2020 are the excuse to replace it. The 1913 reset was about who controlled the money supply. The 2026 reset is about how that money supply controls you. Sound familiar? The parallels are terrifying. The lie is the same. The stakes, however, are infinitely higher. The game is over. The old system cannot be saved. It must be replaced. But replaced with what? This is the great mid-script twist. This is the moment you've been waiting for. The 2026 reset. You are being prepared for the stock market crash, the housing collapse, the commercial real estate implosion. This is not the main event. This is the controlled demolition. It is the shock event, the emergency, the cyber pandemic, the bank run that will be used to justify the solution. The solution that, they will tell you, is the only way to save the world from a new Great Depression. And that solution has a name. They call it a central bank digital currency, a CBDC. You probably think you know what that is. You think, I already use digital money. I tap my phone. I use Zelle. How is this different? That is the exact misunderstanding they are counting on. Your bank app? That's just a digital representation of your money, held by a commercial bank like Chase or Bank of America. It's a liability of that bank. You are, legally, an unsecured creditor of that bank. When it fails, you hope the FDIC bails you out. A CBDC is not that. A CBDC is a direct liability on the central bank's own balance sheet. It means you no longer have a bank account. You have an account with the Federal Reserve itself. The middleman is gone, which sounds efficient, until you understand what it really means. It means that for the first time in history, the same institution that creates the money and sets monetary policy will also have a direct, retail relationship with every single citizen. This is the dream of every tyrant in history, and the infrastructure for it is not some far-off fantasy. It was switched on in July 2023. It's called FedNow. They sold it as a simple, instant payments service, a way to compete with Venmo, a public utility. It is the lie of 1913 all over again. FedNow is not a payment app. It is the plumbing. It is the rails. It is the centralized grid that connects every single financial institution in America directly to the Federal Reserve's mothership. It is the on-ramp for the CBDC. It is the system that will allow them to flick the switch from the old system to the new in an instant. You won't believe the name they give the final wallet app when it rolls out. This is where they own nothing. Part of the prophecy becomes terrifyingly literal. This is the deep dive. This is the part they do not want you to understand. Because this new money, this FedCoin, is programmable. This is the kill shot. Programmable means the central bank, the government, can write rules into the money itself. Let's trace the mechanics of this engineered collapse. First, the crisis. The 72-hour blackout we just talked about. The system freezes. The panic is absolute. In that moment of maximum fear, you will be given a choice, a non-choice. The president will go on television, flanked by the Fed chair and the Treasury secretary. They will announce a banking holiday. They will blame speculators, or crypto, or a foreign cyber attack. And they will announce the rescue. They will call it the People's Wallet or the Fed Wallet. Every American, They will say, will have their frozen bank accounts converted one-to-one into a new, safe, and secure digital dollar wallet. Your lost $10,000 is now $10,000 in FedCoin. The public will be so grateful they will line up to be enrolled. But this new money, this FedCoin, will have terms and conditions. Programmable means they can implement negative interest rates directly. This is the ultimate tool of financial repression. Right now, to stimulate the economy, the Fed has to ask commercial banks to lend. With a CBDC, they don't have to ask. They command. They will announce that to combat deflation and encourage velocity, any money you don't spend by the end of the month will be taxed at 1% or 5%. Your savings are no longer an asset. They are a liability. The very act of saving, of building capital, of planning for the future will be punished by the code itself. Programmable means expiration dates. This isn't a theory. We've already seen this. In China's 2021 ECNY pilot program, they distributed digital yuan to citizens that literally expired in 14 days. This wasn't a bug, it was the feature. It forces spending. It guarantees you can never accumulate wealth. It turns every citizen into a pure, desperate consumer, living hand-to-mouth on the next government-issued stimulus. Programmable means vendor restrictions. Your universal basic income payment arrives. $1,000 in FedCoin. But this $1,000 can only be spent on government-approved items. You can buy groceries, but not organic groceries. You can pay your electric bill, but you cannot use it to buy a plane ticket, a firearm, or a book they don't like. Programmable means geofencing. Your money only works within a 15-mile radius of your home zone. This isn't just about controlling your spending. It's about controlling your movement. It's a digital leash. But it gets so much worse. Programmable means total social engineering. The technology for this is already being built. Look up Project Hamilton. It was a joint venture between the Boston Fed and MIT. They announced they could handle 1.7 million transactions per second. This is not a test. This is a weapon. Now, imagine your Fed wallet is linked to your digital health records. You skipped your recommended booster shot. Your wallet is automatically debited a $500 public health noncompliance fine. Or maybe your wallet is simply deactivated from purchasing luxuries like restaurant food until you comply. Imagine your wallet is linked to your smart meter. You used too much air conditioning during a climate emergency. A premium carbon tax is instantly pulled from your account. Imagine your wallet is linked to your media consumption. You try to subscribe to an unapproved news source, a conspiracy podcast. The transaction is simply blocked. This vendor is not compliant with community guidelines. This isn't just about controlling your spending. This is about pre-crime. This is about automating obedience. This is about programming you. And most terrifying of all, programmable means political controls. Remember the Canadian trucker convoy in 2022? The government, without a court order, invoked emergency powers to freeze the bank accounts of protesters and anyone who donated to them. That was the beta test. It was clumsy. It was slow. It required phone calls to commercial banks. With a CBDC, they don't need to call your bank. There is no bank. There is only one button on one desk in Washington, D.C. You said the wrong thing on social media? You're flagged for misinformation. Click. You are a non-person. You are unbanked by the state. You cannot buy food. You cannot pay rent. You cannot exist in the commercial world. This isn't a theory. The president of the Bank for International Settlements, the central bank of all central banks, said it himself. Augustin Carstens. In 2021, he said, and I quote, "With CBDC, we will have absolute control on the rules and regulations, and we will also have the technology to enforce that." Absolute control. Pia Roman, another BIS official, said, "We need to think about a new social contract." CBDC is a big part of that. They are not just changing the money, they are changing your rights. Nakanda, a key figure at the IMF, was caught on a hot mic discussing CBDCs. What did he say? He bragged that a CBDC can be used to control what people can buy. They aren't hiding it. They are bragging about it. This is the own-nothing future. It's not just that you won't own a house. It's that you won't even own the money in your wallet. You will be a serf on a digital plantation, renting your purchasing power second by second from the central bank. So, How do you get rich in a system designed to make you a slave? You reject their system. The 2026 reset is a doorway. It is a great unveiling where the illusion of paper and digital wealth is vaporized and real value is all that's left. The chance to get rich is not about picking the right stock in this casino. It's about understanding the one asset class they cannot program, the one asset class they cannot print, the one asset class that is not simultaneously someone else's liability. Hard, tangible assets, the assets you can hold in your hand, the assets that have survived every financial reset, every empire, and every tyrant for 5,000 years. Physical gold, physical silver. Why? Because these assets are the antithesis of their system. A gold coin has no counterparty risk. It is not anyone's liability. It cannot be programmed. It cannot be geofenced. It cannot be devalued by a keystroke. It is final settlement, in your hand, anonymous and sovereign. And what about other outside assets, like Bitcoin? That's the trap for the second group of people, the digital rebels. They will be allowed to think they are escaping, right until the same cyber attack that takes down the banks is used to unmask the Bitcoin network, or they are simply outlawed by the state, which will claim a monopoly on all digital currency. Any asset that lives on their grid, on their internet, on their regulated exchanges, can be controlled by them. They will use it as a honeypot, a way to identify and track dissent before they shut the door. The only true escape is to go analog. When the new system is rolled out, there will be two prices for everything: the official price in worthless, programmable FedCoin, and the real price in real money. The rich will be those who can transact outside the grid. This isn't about getting rich in their dollars. It's about being rich in real terms. It's about having purchasing power when everyone else has a permission slip. It's about productive land. It's about resources. It's about skills. It's about the real things that real people will always need, no matter what money is. The wealth transfer is coming. It is mathematically and politically guaranteed. The opportunity is to front-run the panic, to use your fake, dying fiat currency, your dollars, to acquire real assets before the music stops and the doors to the new grid lock behind us. The choice is stark. One path is convenience. It is the path of the Fed wallet. It is the path of denial. It is the path of accepting this stimulus and the universal basic income that will be paid in their programmable coin. This path ends and you will own nothing. The other path is hard. It's sovereign. It means taking responsibility for your own wealth. It means holding assets outside their system. It is the only path that ends in freedom. This is not like 1913. That was a slow-motion collapse that took a century to play out. This new system is digital. It is global. The Bank for International Settlements, through projects like Project M-Bridge, is coordinating this rollout with every major central bank on Earth, including China. When the old system freezes, the lock-in to the new one will not take years. It will take days. We have been living on borrowed time since 1971, when the dollar's last imaginary tie to gold was severed. The entire global economy has been a parasitic illusion, built on a promise that everyone knew, deep down, was a lie. The 2026 reset is simply the lie being called. Denial is the most expensive position you can possibly hold right now. Trusting the very institutions that created this debt prison to save you is the ultimate moral hazard. The 2026 reset is a doorway. Most will be pushed through it, blind and terrified, into a world where they own nothing. A few will walk through it, carrying the only wealth that matters. If you're skeptical, good. You should be. Do your own research. But start with the Bank for International Settlements. Look up Project Hamilton. Read the IMF's own papers on CBDCs. It's all there. Let me know in the comments what you find. Share this video. Share it with one person who you think needs to understand the real game that is being played. The question is no longer if the reset is coming. The question is, when the music stops, what will be in your wallet?